It's always a good idea to steal some ideas from people that have experienced more than you have in different venues. We're going to do a little of that today. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad, Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, we inspire. And I recently was reading an article by an author named Ryan Holiday, and the title of his article was 33 Things I Stole from People Smarter Than Me. And my very first thought was, as a former English teacher, how about 33 things I stole from people smarter than I? But I digress, all right? And by the way, if you're having trouble knowing whether to say me or I in sentences like that, or he and him, and you hear people on TV, and I hear people do that, and they're trying to sound intelligent, and they get it completely backward, is all you have to do is complete the sentence, and then you can figure out which is the right way to say it in English. 33 things I stole from people smarter than me, or 33 things I stole from people smarter than I am. Would you say me am, or would you say I am? That's how you figure out what's the correct way to say it. It's very simple, and that works with when somebody says he or she or him or her. You know, just finish the sentence off, and then you'll know whether you're speaking your English correctly. And sometimes that's very important, because there are some people that make their judgments that way. I try not to. You know, my dad used to correct me all the time, and sometimes when he would say things, I would correct him. He says, well, you know, that's the way people talk nowadays. All right? So you don't want to be someone that's a corrector, because that can be annoying. But it's also important to speak English, and especially when you're writing, to do it the correct way. All right? So let's talk about some 33 things that this gentleman, Ryan Holiday, he says in the article that he's had the privilege of having contact with a great many intelligent and powerful people, and he just gave a couple of things, and I thought they were some of them were kind of cool. All right, so we'll just go over a few of them. He talked about the legendary basketball coach George Raveling. George Raveling, I actually went to see a game where he was the coach when I was living in California. Went to a game that Stanford was playing, and I believe he was with Washington State, if I'm not mistaken, as a coach. Very, very good coach. He sees reading as a moral imperative. And I'm quoting here, people died, he said, and he was speaking of slaves, soldiers, civil rights activists, so that I could have the ability to read. If you're not reading, if books aren't playing a major role in your life, you're betraying the legacy that they left for the generations after them. Very simply, he's saying, hey, people laid down their lives so that I would have the ability to A, learn how to read and write, but secondly, since I had that ability, if I'm not doing it, what did they fight for? Does that make sense? Another one on reading from Mr. Holiday. And this is it from the biography of General James Mattis. He's been in the news recently from President Trump. Points out that if you haven't read widely, you are functionally illiterate. And as Mark Twain said, if you don't read, you're not any better than people who can't read. Does that make sense? If you're not reading and writing, you're really hurting yourself. Because one of the things, you know, think about kids in school. They're excited. I'm going to learn new stuff. When you were a kid, there was always something new. You could always look at a new perspective. There were new ideas. And then for some reason, when we become adults, when we go into the workplace, we tend to level off and we don't read anymore. We certainly don't write very much unless you're a writer, all right? But, you know, one of the things education is something that's a lifelong endeavor. No authority less than Albert Einstein actually said that. Education is a lifelong endeavor. And one of the biggest things about education is to read, get new perspectives, get new ideas, and to write, to retain them. And when you write something down, we've said this over and over again, you are forced to make literal sense out of it. It makes things clearer, and people are always seeking clarity. So if you want to expand your horizons, dedicate some time every day to doing some reading. It's very simple. And also, once again, I strongly recommend that you have a journal for yourself and you can do that so many different ways. I mean, it couldn't be easier now. This is what I do, and I'm a computer illiterate. What I do is when I read these articles on the computer, all I do is cut and paste and put them in there and review them. All right, it's as simple as that. It can't be simple. You don't even have to spend the time writing. All you have to do is cut and paste. Boom, you're done. You know, and then you can add your little notes to it, which is what I do. But, you know, have a journal for yourself. Have a record. Have a place where you can, when you're looking for an idea. I can't tell you how many times I've been looking for an idea, and I go back into my journal, and it's like click, click, and you get an idea, and that solves your issue. It makes it so much easier than sitting back and thinking, well, what can I do? What can I do? Go back, and sometimes the idea that I get doesn't come directly from the journal, but it just, I take that, I relate it to something else, and it sparks a brand new idea. Understand how your mind works and take advantage of the tools that you can use to expand your horizons. Okay? Another thing that this gentleman said, and he's quoting an author named Stephen Pressfield. There are professional habits and amateur ones. Which are you practicing? Is this a pro move or an amateur move? Ask yourself that constantly. Think about the things that you do habitually, over and over again, without thinking. And then review these in your mind and say, is this an amateur move, or is this the move that a pro would do? One of the things that I found, and you know, I'm beating you over the head with this, is that successful people designate time every day to read, and in many, many cases also designate a very short period of time to do some writing. Model success. It's a professional move. It's not an amateur move. So, and think about the things that you do on a regular basis. You know, back in the day when I was a ball player, all right, and actually played, I would go to this place and I would run the stairs. And there were 4 flights of stairs. I went up the stairs, down the stairs, up the stairs, down the stairs. You know, and say, what the heck are you doing that for? Because I needed to build up my endurance. I needed to build up my stamina, so that at the end of the game, I still had some energy left. And, you know, one of the things is at the end of the game, when you have the energy and your opponent doesn't, your opponent's toast. You got them right where you want them. So you need to be in shape physically if you're going to be a performer in an athletic contest. So, you know, why running the stairs? Because those are the moves that professional people make. They make sure that they are in shape, as opposed to the amateur that just goes down to the park and shoots, you know, and plays a few games and so on. If you want to be a professional in a particular venue, then you need to do the things that professionals do. And part of being, and of course I wasn't a professional athlete, but if you want to be somebody that, you know, plays high school ball or college ball or whatever, you have to be in shape. It's a pro move. It's not an amateur. The difference between the guy that, you know, in a pickup game that's like shooting the lights out, and then you say, gee, why doesn't he go out for the team? He's so good. And then if he does, you see like he's out of breath in like 2 seconds. It's having pro habits and having amateur habits, and you can apply this all through the things that you do in your life. Are you doing them the pro way or the amateur way? All right. and I'm quoting the author here, it was from Ernest Hemingway, Tobias Wolff, and John Fonte, he likes to name drop, that I learned about typing up passages by your favorite authors so that you can feel great writing go through your fingers. It helps you seed the style into your subconscious. It's a practice I followed for about 15 years. So, what is Mr. Holliday saying with this? He's saying, you know what? I would type in these guys, these authors, very, outstanding words, so that my fingers could feel what it's like to write something of that quality and create that feeling. Is that something that you're doing in your life? Are you emulating people? And I'm not just talking about writing, I'm talking about whatever it is that you do. If you see someone that's, the pro, that's excellent at that, can you emulate, can you copy what they do so you can feel what it's like to do what they do? And it can be as simple as, cooking a dish from a top chef. If you copy what they do, then you can feel what they do, how they prepare the dish. And then, of course, when you taste it, the end result. Are you preparing your dishes that way? Are you feeling what they feel? That's one of the key elements to being successful, is being able to feel what an achiever feels. And that gives you the impetus to go on, to go forward. And the other thing it does, as he says, is helps you seed the style into your subconscious. There are so many things in life that are controlled by our subconscious minds, the way we think, the repetition of doing certain acts. I've spoken in the past about, as an athlete, as a coach, you would teach your player certain footwork. He's uncomfortable doing the footwork to begin with, but through repetition, he does it over and over and over until it becomes an act that is performed without thinking, so that the action can be performed without any kind of thinking, and you can focus on the surroundings around you. That's true in athletics. It's also true in life. When you find that particular element that you can perform subconsciously, it makes me kind of think of, the great comedians. They'll stand up, they have, of course, scripted in their minds what they're going to say, and then they get a reaction from the audience, and they know to pause, they know to stop, they know how to use the pause, they know how to make a comment when somebody heckles them. This is something that they've learned, and it's into their subconscious. They don't have to think about it. It's just something they automatically do. Do you have traits like that in your occupation, or in your endeavor, or in your burning desire, that are embedded in your subconscious that allow you to act the correct way? Does that make sense? So, keep in mind that you want to feel what great people feel, and you want, and one of the reasons you want to do that is because it goes into your subconscious, and when you're doing things subconsciously, you have a much higher level, a higher chance of performing in an excellent manner than if you're thinking about each particular step. Repetition means retention, which means excellence. Okay, another one, and this is from a gentleman named Steve Camp. I'm quoting here. Steve Camp told this author that the best and most polite way to make an excuse is to say you have a rule. I have a rule that I don't decide on the phone. So if someone's trying to convince you of something, you say, you know what, I can appreciate that, but you know what, I got a rule that I don't decide on the phone. I'm going to need a little bit more time. The person on the other end of the phone can respect that because you have a rule. I have a rule that I don't accept gifts. I have a rule that I don't speak for free anymore. So if you want me to speak in front of your organization, come up with the cash. I have a rule like that. So that's kind of an interesting thought. I actually do have a rule that I follow religiously, and let me tell you what that particular rule is. Sometimes in life, you get wronged. All right, there's no other way to say it. You feel it can be on different sides of the balance sheet. It can be on the personal side of the balance sheet where somebody close to you feel has maybe betrayed you or gossiped about you or said something wrong or done something wrong or not followed through and come through for you. We've all experienced that. Or on the business side of the balance sheet, same thing. You feel that the workplace betrayed you or that your workers betrayed you or something like that. One of the rules that I have that I follow religiously, because it's so easy to do this and screw up, is I don't have a knee-jerk reaction when something like that happens, because then your emotions are speaking instead of your mind. And when you give yourself, and my rule is I always give myself at least overnight, usually 24 hours, but at least overnight, that amount of time before I will respond to someone that I feel has done me wrong, because then I get a chance to look at it from a logical perspective and not say something stupid on an emotional level, because sometimes when you do that, you say something very hurtful and the particular scenario that you're talking about will pass, but the person with whom you're expressing it that you want to, get back with later on in life, you don't want to burn any bridges, will always remember that you said that mean thing, that emotional thing to them, and that'll always be in the back of their mind, and it will permanently affect a relationship. And all relationships have their ups and their downs. You've got to recognize that, and in so doing, if you're an intelligent person, you don't want to speak emotionally in a hurtful way, because that can permanently affect a relationship that you value, that you want to maintain. Another one. I've been in too many locker rooms, and I'm just quoting from the article here, I've been in too many locker rooms not to notice that teams put up their values on the wall. Every hallway and doorway is decorated with a motivational quote. You have to put your precepts up for display. You have to make them inescapable, or else the idea will escape when you really need it. They'll escape you when it counts. One of the things that my major mentor in business, Bob Anderson, would have all these little signs up on his wall. Leaders lead. That was one. I'll just go over a couple. Leaders lead was one. Just so many of them. And one of the things, when you would find yourself in a particular situation and you were troubled, he would say, look around your office, or what does that sign say? And it just is critical to put these things in your face, because if these are the basic principles that are important to live by, and you don't have them embedded in your mind, then when the time comes, it's useless. So you want to maintain a certain set of standards, a certain set of principles that you can be relied upon to perform, to lead, to administer. And because when people look at you, they can count on you to have a certain perspective, to have a certain judgment, to act in the correct way. And as a leader, that's a really important thing. Not only that, but as a person, you want to put your goals right there in front of you so you see them every day, because when you see them, when they're right there in front of you in your mind, then you're thinking about them. And the more you think about these things, then the more you will relate other things that typically are peripheral to that particular subject that you're seeing. I've spoken many times about, you'd be driving down the road, you see a billboard, you'll see a sign, and somehow you've driven by that billboard 1,000 times, but now that you have a particular burning desire, the words on that billboard will relate to what it is you're looking to do. And the story that I like to tell is there was an advertisement on a billboard for Transformers. And I'm in the process of teaching personal development with people, and people get angry and oftentimes speak before they get just what we were just talking about, where they speak before they get a chance to let things soak in and give it some logical thought. And my advice is you need to transform you need to take yourself from the position of anger to a position of neutrality where you're thinking. And the way that you do that is you go back and you think about something really, 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 really good that happened in your life, replay that in your mind, and then get yourself calm, get yourself settled, get yourself looking forward and not so angry. And I was trying to find a word, a name that I could use for these types of stories. And then just driving down the road one day, I saw the advertisement on a billboard for Transformers, the movie, and I said, bingo! There's the name we want to use. So you want to have some Transformers stories in your mind that you can go back to put yourself back on an even keel when you get angry, to control your anger, because we all go through that. We're all emotional people, all emotional beings. So just as one example, all right? Another one, Heraclitus said, no man steps in the same river twice. The second time around, both man and river are different than they were before. This is why I'm a fan of rereading books. The books are the same, but we change between reads. The world changes too. How many times have we spoken about, when we talk about the Bible of personal development, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, about people that have read it 10 times, 15 times, and every time they read it, they get something different. Why does that happen? Because you, as the individual, as the reader, have evolved a little bit, and in so doing, when you go back and reread these words, then you get, oh, there's a new meaning, a new light comes on. The same thing is true in, once again, there's three sides of the balance sheet: personal side, business side, spiritual side. When people read the Bible, they read it over and over and over and over, but they can get something new from it, from the stories that are in the Bible, because they have evolved from point A to point B to point C to point D. So when you have a classic, this is one of the reasons why I get annoyed when they have crib notes, where somebody takes a book and says, oh, I'm going to take a 250-page book and I'm going to summarize it in 5 pages, and you're going to get everything that you need to get from those 5 pages. No, you're not. Not if the book is a classic. It's like watching when you watch Gone with the Wind, well, that's not a good example, but you watch a classic movie and somebody puts it in like 2 minutes. You're not going to enjoy the movie. You got to watch the whole movie. You want to see, the artist performing at their best, the different nuances. So, in life, you never step in the same river twice, because you've changed and the river's changed. So it gives you a different paradigm when you're doing your reflecting, when you relate one thing to another thing. So, remember that it's okay to, not only okay, but recommended, when you have a classic, go back and reread it, go back and re-experience it, and you will find that you'll get more out of it. I've read Think and Grow Rich at least 10 or 15 times and get something from it differently every single time I read it. And, you hear people say that all the time, but it's absolutely true. Okay, from the journalist David French, human beings need forgiveness like we need oxygen. A nation devoid of grace will make its people miserable. Wow. Is that kind of in touch with the present scenario, with what's going on? You try and put your finger on it, and you say, what is it about this president that is, at least to me, and I'll bet I'm not the only one, that is so annoying? And the thing that's annoying is he doesn't have the grace. You know, when a reporter asks him a question, he confronts the reporter like a bully. There's no grace in being a bully. That's something that annoys me. I don't know, I'm speaking honestly here. You know, and past presidents, I haven't necessarily agreed with their stances, but Obama and the Bushes and Clinton, these people, they had a certain grace to them that even when they disagreed with you, they were able to relay it in a nice way, in a civilized way, in a way befitting the office of president. And when you see somebody just, besmirched, this is fake news and you have no idea, and that type of thing, a person is devoid of social graces. This is a passage from former Coca-Cola CEO Brian Dyson. Quote, "Imagine life as a game in which you're juggling some 5 balls in the air. You name them: work, family, health, friends, and spirit. And you're keeping all of these balls in the air. You'll soon understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it'll bounce back. But the other 4 balls, family, health, friends, and spirit, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, they will be irrevocably scuffed, marked, nicked, damaged, or even shattered. They will never be the same." Wow, that's really an interesting concept. The point is, you can survive major business mistakes. You can, quote unquote, bounce back like a rubber ball. You can have numerous chances. I mean, Walt Disney is famous for going bankrupt 7 different times. I think we can safely say that Mr. Disney somehow did bounce back, didn't he? So the way to succeed is to fail more often. That's in the business world. But family, health, friends, and spirit, you need to be very, very careful about the things that you say and the things that you do. If you do the one wrong thing, as an example, using the present circumstances, if you go to a place where there's a large crowd of people, your health can change that quickly. You can pick up the virus. If you say the wrong thing to a family member, they will remember that you said that forever and ever, and that will affect your relationship from that moment ongoing to the end of time, and you may not want to have that. Same thing is true with friends. One of my rules with friends, and there's another rule, okay? One of my rules with friends is sometimes a man and a woman will have a disagreement. You're friends with either the man or the woman. Let's say in this case I'm friends with the man, and the man will say, "Oh, she's such a blah, 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 blah," and he talks negatively about her, and then you as a friend say, "Yeah, she's really like that. When I first met her, that was my thought immediately." And then they get back together. And you know what happens when they get back together? They forget about the conversation, about the fighting they had among themselves, but they will remember the negative thing that you said and hold it against you forever and ever. So when a couple is having a fight, always stay out of it. Don't stick your nose in. Don't put your 2 cents in there, because when they get back together, you're going to find that a relationship that you valued has been changed. So anyway, these are once again some thoughts from a gentleman whose name is Ryan Holiday, an author who had the privilege of associating with some kind of very accomplished people. And I once again found it kind of ironic that the title of his article is 33 Things I Stole from People Smarter Than Me. Didn't get the English part right. But the point is, take a look at different things that people say, apply them, change your paradigm. If you want to be someone that improves in life, you have to be a student of life. Look, there's one friend of mine has a tremendous amount of charisma. People are just drawn to him. And I kind of study the things that he does just to kind of see what is it that he does that draws people to him. Be a student of life if you want to improve yourself and see the reactions, the responses that people have. And because we will never end a meeting on a philosophical note, let's get out there, let's read, let's write, and let's take charge. I'm Eli's dad.